my story. The rest is silence.
Cut! Let it be! Let it be! Let it be!
Olá, eu sou Marcos Roberto e a partir deste momento estamos iniciando pela Rádio e TV Fé e Luz a mais uma edição do programa Megafone, que hoje é muito especial, uma vez que conversaremos com duas pessoas envolvidas com o universo cultural. Dois Davids, o David Vando e o David Wendell, que é um ator que inclusive dubla em diversos filmes o grande astro norte-americano Brad Pitt. E junto comigo nessa entrevista, que nós realizaremos a partir de agora, está aqui o Joel Dornelles, ele que também é ator, apresentador. Um dos programas que ele apresenta é o Chão, Sanfona e Viola. Então é uma honra estar aqui com você aqui no programa Megafone.
Obrigado de coração. E também um alô para vocês aí, o Davids, né? Meus dois Davids. O David Wenzel e o outro David, muito obrigado por... Eu estava conversando com ele aqui ao lado, né? Falando da possibilidade, né? Dessa ideia de se falar com pessoas tão distintas e distante da onde a gente está, né? Então é uma permissão de Deus, né? Para que a gente possa estar falando de arte, de cultura, e isso é muito importante, né?
Sim.
Muito, muito bacana, né? Por ter dado para a gente essa possibilidade de falar de teatro, de cinema e de programa. Prazer, David Wenzel, prazer estar falando com vocês.
Então, Joel, gostaria que você pudesse fazer a primeira pergunta aos nossos convidados, você que é um ator, você que tem uma larga experiência nesse universo, então fique à vontade para iniciar aqui a nossa entrevista.
Bacana. Então vamos falar já de Shakespeare, né? Que é muito bom, né? É bacana demais estar falando de Shakespeare. Eu que já li várias coisas de Shakespeare, né? Romeu e Julieta e mais outros que a gente conhece aqui do universo da literatura, né? Nunca montei Shakespeare, já montei Brecht, já montei Garcia Lorca, mas nunca tive a possibilidade no teatro de montar Shakespeare. Eu queria perguntar para você, David, como é representar algum personagem de Shakespeare?
Difficult. We've done 8 performances of this kind of interpretation of the piece to kind of hone it into a new interpretation for a young audience. So, I mean, I think it's approachable. We've had a lot of people that not necessarily understand Shakespeare or are intimidated by Shakespeare, but after seeing this film, at least they understood the story of Hamlet, which I think is a testament to the modern day telling and the dramaturg work that David Van Doe has done to the script. I mean, it was really a slam dunk. We literally gave this revised version to our director and, kind of did I don't want to say we did all the work, but we certainly set it up for him to, execute on the highest level.
Bacana. Fico muito feliz, né? Porque está faltando coisas, né? Coisas sobre a literatura, grandes textos levados para o cinema. Tem visto muita coisa ruim, né, no cinema como literatura, e de repente uma proposta de Shakespeare é sempre bem-vindo para o Brasil e para o mundo, né?
Well, we have done an adaptation of Hamlet, his most famous play, and we've approached it from a different point of view. It's seen from the eyes of Hamlet's close friend, Horatio. And it deals with the spiritual relationship between the two men. Horatio, who at Hamlet's death, promises to tell his story, to tell the tragedy of his death to the world. And so our film is an enactment of Hamlet's life that led up to his death. So Horatio does tell the story
Right.
in cinematic terms.
Right, and I think also the film itself digs a little deeper than the traditional aspects of Hamlet. You know, do I kill the king? Do I not? We've taken some, or David's taken some liberties in terms of interpretation, but you know, it really is more on that quintessential spiritual level, and really questioning the meaning of existence. And is it better to be dead? Is it better to be alive? But you know, and the ghost kind of represents that kind of, you know, question mark, so to speak. Is this an apparition of the devil? Is this from hell? Is this from heaven? There's with the music and the style and the way the film was photographed, I think it definitely it has this spiritual orchestra, so to speak. Even if your audiences don't even understand the English aspects of it, just in the English language, I guarantee if they just turn the volume down and watch the pictures and watch the movement, the story would still grab them, just with the imagery alone, right? Filmmaking is pictures. Pictures tell a story. Each one of those frames, to me, is more than a Renaissance painting. You know, David Van Doe got to work with Franco Zeffirelli, who's an amazing visionary. Well, our DP was able to kind of vision that out, too, in broad spec in terms of picture to picture. And that's what I think you guys are acknowledging in terms of the production value. We had a great team. We had a really good director. We had a great costume designer, DW. We had a great director, Paul Warner. We had Andrew, a great actor, playing Hamlet. We had Themo playing Horatio. The whole cast. I mean, David Van Doe and I can go down the entire cast. But this is truly an ensemble piece with the cast and the crew coming together. So even though it's a film, it still represents the spirit of the theater. You know, especially with the void, the null and void of theater this pandemic season. But I certainly want to shout out to Paul Warner, to Hernan Toro, our DP, to Soren Gel, who was our production designer and built that graveyard and that whole beautiful aesthetic. DW, who does all our costume stuff on Broadway, our two lead actors, and all our supporting actors. Wonderful. I mean, I don't want to take up the time going through 40 actors on the scale, but I mean, they're all wonderful. Without any one of them, this doesn't work. Every component clicked, and that never happens. That never happens in film, not in an ensemble. You're usually dealing with egos, or you know, one performance is off, but the levels on this were so connected. Everybody was so connected, and that's what you're really seeing. You know, David and I. Well, David lost all his hair, obviously, on this project. You know, the actors come and go, but you know, the producers and the writers, we're still there. We're still with the film, not only through post-production, but through distribution and through press junkets. We still, you know, have an obligation to sell the film, and it's tough as an independent film dealing with, you know, fighting studio system films that are coming out now out of the pandemic, and we got to compete with those bad boys too. So, you know, this is a wig I'm wearing because I'm actually bald too. No, I guess it's glued in. It's not coming out, but it should be. This is what one of David Van Doe's goals was from the start. He had taught Shakespeare for a numerous amount of years at the New York Film Academy and introduced it not only to American actors, but more so international actors that would come to New York to study. He would introduce them to Shakespeare.
Including a lot of Brasileños. And you know what? All the students who came from Brazil were terrific. They were marvelous actors because they have the Latin emotion in them.
The fiery Latin. The passion. And it works because, I mean, if you look at it, aside from the Bible, I mean, probably the works of Shakespeare are the second greatest piece of work out there. I mean, you've got great morality tales. You've got good versus evil. You know, when you're in love in Shakespeare, you're in love. When you're in hate, you're in hate, right? I mean, they're very drastic and they're very dramatic, but that's what makes it work. And that's why he has stood the test of time. Whether you're doing a stylistic period piece or you're doing a modern adaptation, it still works. I personally don't need to see another version of something that's already been done. I like reinventing the wheel, but there's certainly nothing wrong with, you know, doing a classical production, so to speak.
Eu vejo assim que cada vez que a gente monta uma história, né, que quer montar uma história de Shakespeare, ou um teatro absurdo, ou um teatro francês, ou um teatro espanhol, ou se adaptar tudo isso para o cinema, né, ou criar uma possibilidade, eu sempre fui um ator, um produtor e diretor futurista, que a gente tem que mostrar algo novo, né? Mesmo a história sendo antiga, como Shakespeare, como Corpo Fechado de Guimarães Rosa, ou algo de trás, ou algo de frente, tem que mudar, tem que fazer algo para engrandecer a humanidade, né?
Amen. Amen. That's, I mean, honestly, I couldn't agree more. And I know David couldn't agree more. I mean, we've been through a lot in New York. And the one thing that we know for sure is the one thing we're going to leave behind is not money. It's our body of work and how we've inspired and helped the people around us. David and I both have lost people in 9/11 when the planes crashed. David had a personal friend that was an artist with him that we dedicate this film to, Richard Porter, who was such a lost soul and you know, and took his own life, you know? So, you know, to encourage youth, to encourage people, just a smile. I mean, I don't understand what the hosts are saying, but I'll tell you what I do understand. I do understand feeling and energy, and I can feel his energy coming from me. I certainly can feel the host's passion coming from us. So we're connected in that, you know? And if we don't share that work, that you can be as poor with no money in your pocket, but to influence people by your work and by good deeds, that goes on forever. That's a lasting impression. That's money, what I call in your spiritual bank. And we may not be gazillionaires, but I'll tell you something else. David Van Doe is a gazillionaire in that bank. The amount of lives that he has touched, the actors, the young kids that he encouraged them to go after their dreams when people, their families were saying, no, you're crazy, be a doctor, be a lawyer, look for that security in that. Without David, I myself personally wouldn't even be here discussing this film, collaborating with him. He walked me into a place called the Drama Bookshop, literally started taking plays off the shelf and said, read this and get back to me, read this and get back to me, read this and get back to me, and gave me an education that far usurped anything I could probably get in college with that one-on-one mentor. And I'm just one. I'm just one of many that he's changed their lives. And that's what I hope this film does too. You know, this is his legacy. This is our legacy, but this is his legacy more than anything else. This is his body of work. I mean, I'm sorry to speak for him, but I can't control myself in that regard because he is so humble. He won't toot his own horn. So I'm here to toot his own horn. And he'll tip me afterwards.
A gente fica muito feliz por estar conectado, né, com essas ideias. Aí eu vejo assim que tem grandes textos de Shakespeare, grandes textos aqui no Brasil de Guimarães Rosas, por exemplo, que você deve conhecer a literatura dele, David, que poderia se montar para o cinema, que poderia se fazer adaptações para o cinema. É uma pena que os direitos autorais estão na mão de pessoas poderosas aqui no Brasil, que não libera isso para ser feito. Mas tem muita coisa de Guimarães Rosa, por exemplo, aqui no Brasil, que poderia ser feito para o cinema, que foi feito lá atrás alguma coisa como seriado para televisão, porque o monopólio está com eles. A coisa está com eles. É uma pena. A cultura está na mão de poucos, né, aqui no Brasil, e essa dificuldade de se produzir, uma pelo lado financeiro, outra pelo lado que você é ligado ao teatro, não é ligado ao cinema completamente, mas devagarinho a gente vai furando o cerco, fazendo curtas, fazendo um filme, um longa mais popular, para que você consiga, presente e futuro, ter esse know-how para conseguir um dia montar um Guimarães Rosa, um Shakespeare, como vocês estão montando. Parabéns.
Well, that's definitely a tragedy. That's probably the saddest thing I heard. You know, that work should be free to the public. That work should be able to be celebrated and carried on, and shouldn't be controlled by any sector or any government sector or any of that stuff. That's a tragedy, and you know, that's a soul killer. That's, you know, I mean, we deal with intellectual property rights here in the United States, but, you know, with the Library of Congress, after so many years, scripted material falls into royalty free. Like Shakespeare's royalty. We don't have to pay an estate. We don't have to get a license. You know, there's certain, after an X amount of time or period that has elapsed, you have the ability to go ahead and do that. That's why a lot of theater companies that can't afford licensing scripts do a lot of classical work, because it's accessible to us here. But that's horrendous. That needs to change. That certainly needs to change. You know, and I mean, I feel horrible hearing that.
As locações que vocês usaram, foi todas aí nos Estados Unidos ou teve em outro país também? As locações para montar o Shakespeare.
Como assim locação, Joel?
Locação de gravação. Set de filmagem foi feito só aí nos Estados Unidos ou teve em outro país também, usado em outro país, ou foi feito só lá nos Estados Unidos?
The film takes place on a soundstage, an empty soundstage. And a cinematographer, played by me, in clown white makeup, expressionistic makeup, enters and takes a camera, takes off the protective cover of the camera, and begins to shoot the director and the cast and the members of the stage crew assembling the film.
Mm-hmm.
So it all takes place on a film soundstage.
Entendi. Bacana. É que a linguagem teatral, a linguagem televisiva e a linguagem de cinema, ela tem uma certa diferença, né? Então eu queria saber como é que foi, como é que vocês fizeram isso, né? Essa transposição do teatro para o cinema, ou a coisa ficou misturada ali, uma hora vê teatro, uma hora vê cinema, ou sempre vê cinema?
You see, I have worked in both film and in theater.
Same here.
And in opera, okay? And what I've done is I've combined them all. I combined everything. It's surreal, it's expressionism, it's realism, it's spiritualism. It all comes together in this film. And that's what makes it so unique. Shakespeare's play Hamlet is a play within a play within a play. Our film is a film within a film within a film.
Eu torço tanto, eu torço tanto para que tudo isso, todo esse esforço que vocês estão fazendo para trazer Shakespeare para o cinema, dê certo. E que o público de todo o mundo, né, abrace essa ideia, abrace essa coisa bacana que vocês estão fazendo para a humanidade, né? Que Shakespeare, para mim, é sempre bem-vindo. E acredito que Shakespeare, por ser conhecido no mundo inteiro, acredito que vai ser o maior sucesso essa montagem de vocês.
We want to share this with as many people as we can. And let them see for themselves what a new interpretation of this very old classic can look like when seen through modern eyes.
Right. Right. And I, like you said, I know that it's available on Prime and video and stuff. So I mean, I know the captioning and stuff, but we'll talk to our distributor and see if, you know, it is possible that we can get some type of a screening out there. I don't see that as a big hurdle, especially now that we've kind of introduced ourselves to the Brazilian audience. And I think, you know, maybe we can be in touch with you guys and maybe we can set something up, joint venture together, you know?
Essa é a ideia da arte, né? Essa junção, juntar as pessoas, juntar os povos, para que a gente possa estar desenvolvendo projetos culturais, tanto aqui no Brasil, tanto aí nos Estados Unidos, né? Vou até aprender a falar inglês.
I learned Spanish so that I could read the plays of Garcia Lorca and other great Spanish writers. I did. And I learned so much because Lorca was influenced a lot by Shakespeare.
Nós montamos aqui no Brasil Garcia Lorca, tivemos que fazer uma pesquisa, né, sobre a vida dele, sobre a vida de Garcia Lorca, tanto na Espanha, na ditadura de Franco, né? Na vinda dele, ele acredita que ele nunca veio no Brasil, veio até a Argentina, mas nunca veio até o Brasil. Então fiquei triste, né, de saber que o Garcia Lorca veio tão pertinho aqui, veio na Argentina, mas não veio aqui no Brasil. Porque quando você monta Garcia Lorca, você fica simplesmente apaixonado.
A última grande referência cinematográfica de Shakespeare foi na década de 90, quando o filme Shakespeare Apaixonado, um filme polêmico, até caricato, conquistou uma série de Oscars no ano de 98, fazendo com que uma obra polêmica, como eu disse, se perpetrasse como uma grande referência de Shakespeare. Baseando-se nisso, eu gostaria de saber qual é a dificuldade que o cinema tem de retratar obras tão densas como a de Shakespeare.
Honestly, it's easier than probably straight contemporary because Shakespeare is very specific. Once you understand the language and the narrative, it's very, very specific. You identify immediately what is good, what is bad. I mean, even at the Metropolitan Opera, again, you don't even have to understand Italian or anything. You can see a production of Romeo and Juliet just through movement and sound, and you're going to get it. You're going to get it, the whole thing. You know, so I think personally myself, I think Shakespeare is actually, it was easier. I think we were so prepped. We were so prepared because David Van Doe and I had 20 years of tenure on this, that when we handed it to our director, there was a complete roadmap. We brought him right to the treasure. The map was very specific. Sometimes maybe the ship sailed a little off right or off left, but we were there. The script was there to put him right back on course. Everything right back on course.
But also look at what great filmmakers have done with the work, the stories of Shakespeare, like Curaçao. I mean, his Throne of Blood and Ron are magnificent adaptations of Shakespeare's plays. Macbeth and King Lear.
Mm-hmm.
So the influence of Shakespeare doesn't have to be a direct translation.
Right.
It can be something that inspires you. And that, even though we use a lot of the text from the original play, even the original sections and things I have altered and changed and created new scenes with that dialogue in this film to make it more cinematic and to make it more focused on our theme of the spiritual ascendancy of Hamlet.
Aqui no Brasil foi lançado uma obra de um historiador chamado Leandro Carnal, que na sua capa traz uma revelação dos aprendizados que ele teve com Hamlet, justamente a obra que vocês estão retratando no cinema. Então eu faço a mesma indagação que ele deixou na capa do seu livro. Qual foram as lições que vocês aprenderam com a obra de William Shakespeare?
What I take away from Shakespeare's plays is the importance of love. The importance of love in Shakespeare. When people don't allow or prevent other people from loving, tragedy results. That's one of the biggest lessons to be learned in Shakespeare. When people love each other, miracles can happen.
Yeah.
When people hate each other, tragedy results. Death.
Yep. For me personally, I think it comes down to the one line where Hamlet says there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. So for me personally, the big lesson here is that there is something bigger. There's something bigger in this world and out of this world that we're going to move to. And it is what you leave behind. Not to mention the fact that before I was introduced to Shakespeare, I was only interested in being a soap star. Good looking, young, running around a beach with a shirt off. That's what I thought, the craft of acting was, until I was introduced to Shakespeare and learned. I fell in love with the craft of storytelling and what an artist really is, that influences and changes lives for the better. So that's Shakespeare, just like the Bible. That's why I say that they go hand in hand, honestly. I mean, look at all the references of God and evil and good in those morality tales of Shakespeare. Everyone has that component. To Macbeth with the three witches, to Hamlet and the duality of the ghost, right? All of them have it. Lear, they all have it. They all have some kind of subtext of that or some manifestation of that. That's art. That's my takeaway.
Estamos aqui, cada um jogando para o outro, para perguntar para você como foi, David, você trabalhar com Brad Pitt na história sua de teatro, né, de cinema. Você como um ator assim enfronhado nessa história do cinema e do teatro, né? Como foi para você trabalhar? Porque aqui no Brasil é um ator mais conhecido, né? O Brad Pitt, né? É um dos atores mais conhecidos aqui no Brasil pelas suas montagens mais populares, etc, etc. Como foi para você trabalhar com ele?
I mean, I did a lot of films with him. And I honestly use that as an education in filmmaking. I think, I would say that the one thing I did have was an understanding of the craft of acting and the studying that I had in my life, which was really great. But it's a different story when you have to implement that into, a film world of that level. And, he was a great guide introducing me into that. Also introducing me with really great directors like Martin Brest, who did Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino. Gordon Willis, who was a cinematographer that shot all the Godfather movies. So you got to realize, like, my tenure with Brad was a lot of the times I would watch the rehearsal. He would go off to his trailer and I would run the scenes so they can get the lighting and everything right. So I was doing pretty much the choreography and getting everything right so that when he came out, everything was perfect for him. And in that essence, I got to work with great people. And what a great learning curve as a young actor to work with a movie star, to work with big budget directors, and to get paid to learn on the spot. And that's what it was. I got to be in a room and with Anthony Hopkins and have discussions about Shakespeare with him. Who else? Alan Pakula, the late great Alan Pakula. I got to work with him. The Coen brothers. I got to work with them, and this was all, you know, through Brad. I mean, honestly, it's been tough to stay in touch with him. I would believe that if we were walking down the street and he recognized me, I'd have to believe he would stop and at least run and give me a hug. But the Hollywood system is very difficult because they change assistants and it's hard to stay in touch. What I'm hoping is he's going to see my film and get in touch with me, or our film, you know, or not. He's on his path. I'm on my path. But I definitely cherish the time that I had spent with him. And there is not a more stand-up guy as a movie star. He's a real humanitarian. He's a real loving, great guy. He was nothing but great to me. He treated my wife with respect. He look at all the stuff that he did after the big tsunami here with Katrina and building houses for people in New Orleans. I mean, this guy he's not just a movie star. He's a humanitarian. He really is. So there's nothing ill about that. Now, I've worked with some movie stars that I can do without in my life for sure. That if I never see them again, that's still too soon. But he is not one of them. He is the most stand-up guy, and everything he's gotten, he deserves. He truly does. Yep. And I thank him for everything. Even though I can't thank him directly anymore, but I do thank him. And thank you for recognizing that, because that's an important piece of my life. So when you see him, you tell him Wenzel says, hey, man, give him a call. Where you been?
Ô, David, eu queria que você, se você tenha mais alguma coisa, mais algum tópico para falar sobre a montagem do seu filme, falar um pouquinho mais de Shakespeare e agradecer essa possibilidade de estar falando com você de tão distante, e a gente aqui no Brasil, falando de Shakespeare. Eu fico muito lisonjeado estar falando com você, viu, David?
For me, I know David, I'll let David take the epitaph, so to speak, but I just want to say, you know, if the audience can go and find the film on Amazon and check it out, would be a big help for us independents that are, you know, against the movie machine, and hopefully, inevitably, I'll check and see if we can get a theatrical screening there. But you know, the word of mouth, and thank you so much for having us on the air, because, you know, we're only as good as the vehicle that we can reach, and you just put us in a vehicle to reach a lot of people. And I am eternally grateful to you guys for having us, and hopefully we can come back and share other stories with you as well. David?
Well, it's been a pleasure meeting our friends from Brazil. I must say that I have really never traveled in South America, to my regret. But this film, as you can see, I'm not a young man anymore. And this film is very much my gift to the world. And I know there are a lot of people out there that are going to be moved by this film. It's already proven that. But I encourage all people to see this, whether they have a background in Shakespeare or not. It's just a good film. It's a film. It's a story with emotion and life to it. And a spiritual story that is as real a story of the story of Christ.
Right. And also an award-winning film as well. 7-time award-winning film. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Eu gostaria de agradecer a presença dos dois Davids aqui no programa Megafone. Foi muito enriquecedor conhecer esse trabalho de vocês, que está sendo desenvolvido, foi desenvolvido dentro de um teatro para ser promovido numa plataforma digital que é a Amazon. Eu reitero aqui o desejo aqui do Joel Dornelles, desejo muito sucesso, muita sorte aí na caminhada de vocês e que esse filme possa atingir o maior número de pessoas possíveis, uma vez que traz uma obra tão importante como Hamlet, de um autor excepcional como William Shakespeare. Muito obrigado pela participação, foi um prazer para nós.